Hello everybody, I'm Parul Mathur and you are learning to make baking powder biscuits. An easy recipe. Here are the ingredients. We are using some flour. There's some baking powder here. There's sugar. There is cream of tartar. There's milk over here. We have some salt, which I took out in a little bowl over here. This is butter. It's cold butter that we have cut into cubes. This is milk. And here are some of the other tools that we'll be using. We'll be using a mixing bowl to put everything together. We'll use a glass to just cut the biscuits. You can always buy a biscuit cutter and use that, but we can always use something else too that's about this size. We have a spatula that we're going to use to level when we measure our flour and sugar. A fork to mix some ingredients. We have a set of dry measuring cups here, dry measuring spoons, and this tool which is called a pastry blender or a pastry cutter, and we'll use it to blend the butter into our flour mixture. So let's get started. So I'm going to start out by measuring flour. Remember, when you're measuring flour, just fluff it up a little and then scoop out a little bit excess. Scrape it off like this using a flat spatula. And that's 1 cup. Here's the second cup. To this now I will add a tablespoon of baking powder. Now baking powder already has this leveler built in, so I'm just going to go in, take a little bit extra and scoop it out right here. Scrape it off like this so you have the exact amount and sprinkle it. I need 2 tablespoons of sugar, so once again I'll take out a little extra, scrape off the excess amount. That's 1. The second one. We need a ½ teaspoon of cream of tartar. So I'll go like this, find my ½ teaspoon. This is my ½ teaspoon. Once again, here I have to take a little bit extra. Never measure over the bowl. So you should not be measuring this over here because the excess is going to fall here. So measure either over a separate container, or you can measure right here so that the excess falls in here. So that's a ½ teaspoon of cream of tartar, and I'm just going to sprinkle it all over. Now I need a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So here's a 1/4 of a teaspoon. Take that, scrape off the excess amount, sprinkle that. Now what you need to do is you need to take a fork and stir this all around so it's evenly distributed all over. Once you've stirred it for a minute or so, you can then add some shortening to it or butter. So I'm using butter. Butter is a healthier option. So this is butter which was nicely chilled, and we cut it out into small cubes, and now I'm going to add it in here. So once you've added the butter, continue to use the pastry cutter to cut the butter into the flour so that your mixture starts resembling like coarse breadcrumbs. So keep going like that. If you don't have a pastry cutter or a pastry blender that looks like this, you can totally do it using 2 knives or even using a fork. So you can cut using a knife, and you don't need to over mix, just enough so that the mixture resembles coarse breadcrumbs. Once you do that, make a well in the center. So make some room in the center. And in this area now, we will add milk. So I'll put this aside. Now here's milk. You know how to measure milk correctly, right? So you always check at eye level. So we need 2/3 cup of milk, and I'll bend down and I'll check at eye level and make sure that it's exactly 2/3. Because the best way of measuring is to bend down and check at eye level. It should be exactly 2/3. So now I'm going to add milk. And I'll use the fork to gently mix this. At this point, it's really important that you do not over mix. Gentle mixing is all you need. Once the liquid is a little bit absorbed into the dry ingredients, you take some flour and you just make a little dough. So I'll sprinkle some flour here. Move this aside. Your counter should be very clean. You don't need a lot. So once the butter and the milk have made this bowl of dry ingredients, don't like that line, don't cut anything, I'll just keep going. Once the dry ingredients are moistened, what you need to do is just take them out on a lightly floured surface. So I'll take them out here. And then you just have to knead it only about 10 to 12 times, just enough so that the dough comes together. So use a gentle touch and very gently combine everything. Do not over mix. So now I'm just going to make this flat. So this should be about 1/2 inch. So you can use your hands or you can use a rolling pin and make this about 1/2 inch thick. And then from this dough, we are going to cut out our biscuits. So I took out a rolling pin and I'm going to use a little bit of flour on the rolling pin too. And using very gentle pressure, I'll roll it out. Make sure that the surface you are using is lightly floured and try to get them even thickness. And remember, if you don't make them even, they will cook unevenly and you won't get the best results. Also, if you make them very thin, then you're really not going to have biscuits, you'll have crackers. So if you want biscuits, keep them about 1/2 inch thick, and then you can use a biscuit cutter or you can use a cup like this, and you should be able to get about 10 to 12 biscuits using this. So now mine has come out into this rectangular shape. You can always make it a round shape, and we're using this glass, and starting from the very end, press it down. You should be able to get about 10 of these. So once you start doing this, separate it like this, pick it up gently and put it here. So I'll keep doing this. And also another thing, when you have these leftovers, don't waste them. You can always bring them together like that, very gently. Pat them down again, or you can use a rolling pin. And you can always cut another biscuit out of it, so don't waste all that. So I'm going to go like this and remove a little bit of excess. And here's the biscuit from the edges that were there. So I'll keep cutting more. So once the biscuits are ready, all you have to do is put them in the oven. So bend your knees, keep your face away, put them in, and then set the timer. So in 10 to 12 minutes, you want to check them, take them out. They should have a nice golden color, and they should be nice and flaky when you cut them open, and try to eat them warm because you're going to love it like that. You can fill them up with some strawberry jam. You can put some sausage in there, some cheese in there, and enjoy it that way. It's a great breakfast food, and also it can be added to other meals. So I hope you try this recipe. Enjoy.
Thanks for watching.